and thank you for joining us. Marina Park was flooded with residents who wanted to celebrate Indian culture through music, dance, and food. As the 14th Annual Festival of India started at 3 p.m. today and kicked off the event with a chariot parade. The festival had a little something for everyone, as attendees were able to listen to live music and watch professional dance groups on the main stage, browse products at the Indian Bazaar, and look at exhibits. A highlight of the festival was the free feast, consisting of matur, paneer, naan, and rice. Organizer Dr. Prashant Jani says the community support over the years has been overwhelming.
It's very, very encouraging, and the community is very open community, accepting community for every culture, every type of art. They like to learn and know about the food also. So that's a really positive aspect of the community, and that's wonderful. It's overwhelming support, and sometimes we feel tired, but when we see the support, we say, okay, let's do it again this year. And yeah, that's motivates us to do it again and again.
The festivities will continue tomorrow at Marina Park with the annual Festival of Colors. Thunder Bay's Country on the Bay Music Festival is well underway, with thousands of local country music fans in attendance, eating, drinking, and enjoying the live music. They like to preach about things they don't know. He likes honky tonk, she loves rock and roll. Country on the Bay features a ton of big country artists like James Barker Band, Dean Brody, and yesterday's headliner Tim Hicks kicking off the weekend, not to mention a large variety of food vendors and a large quantity of country music's staple beverage, ice-cold beers. Marketing manager Cameron Winters says there's already over 7,000 tickets sold for the event, and it's a weekend you don't want to miss.
It's a lot of fun, you know, it's a lot of work. Like, a lot of volunteers go into this. Our security is great. The stage crew is great. Everybody, you know, puts 110% into the festival, so it's been a slice putting it on.
We love country music.
To the prime, yes.
And who are you most excited to see?
I want to see Tim Hicks.
Tim Hicks. Walker Hayes.
Walker Hayes.
Dean Brody, all Brothers Osborne, all of them.
All.
Country on the Bay will be at Fort William Historical Park until Sunday, and you can purchase your tickets online. There's some new money from Ottawa to help fund a pair of First Nation mental health support projects. They'll both be based out of North Bay, but these programs will be run by First Peoples Wellness Circle, which is an Indigenous-led nonprofit group that could have applications elsewhere in Canada as well. Eric Tashner has more.
Indigenous mental health issues skyrocketed through the pandemic and subsequent lockdowns, re-triggering memories of past colonial acts, according to the CEO of the First Peoples Wellness Center.
It felt like we were back in the past system. Indigenous people experienced lockdowns. We were not allowed to leave our communities in the early 1900s all the way up to the 1950s.
She says systemic racism stemming from practices like residential schools cause Indigenous people to face barriers when finding sufficient mental health care. To address this, the government is chipping in $1.5 million. The Wellness Center will create a guide to lead a mental wellness workforce when helping those most affected by the pandemic.
People started to struggle because of those re-triggers of trauma. We saw increased rates of mental health issues and substance use issues.
But that's not all. An additional $1 million will be set aside to hire more mental health workers in New Brunswick to focus on anti-Indigenous racism, to offer culturally safe mental health services for First Nations in the province. This will be led by the Wellness Center.
We talk about many measures. Mental health, of course, is very important. Healthcare.
The New Brunswick program is going to act like a pilot project, working with practitioners to understand Indigenous communities' needs. Restool adds it could expand to other provinces for First Nations in need, should it be deemed a success.
We want to take it a step further. We want to talk about privilege, oppression, and bias that happens within regions.
We need to step up and work with the communities to make sure we provide the necessary tools. 48
pledges the government is committed to addressing disparities across healthcare so Indigenous people have better access to mental health resources wherever they live. Eric Tashner, CTV News, North Bay.
The CEO of Thunder Bay's Port Authority says the strike at British Columbia's ports is starting to have an impact on shipments coming into this city. Port workers across BC went on strike July 1st over wages, contracting, and automation, halting shipments in and out of over 30 ports. An agreement was thought to be made after 13 days. However, the union rejected the proposal on Tuesday. Then on Thursday, a new deal was reached, and the dock workers union held an emergency meeting on Friday to decide if they will send a proposed deal to its members. We spoke to Port Authority CEO Tim Heaney earlier this week when the strike seemed to be resolved. He says it caused an increase in potash shipments to the city and may affect grain shipments if it continues.
Some of the trains, the unit trains of potash that were headed for Vancouver got diverted to Thunder Bay. So we did see some activity there. It was hard to determine if grain shipments were impacted, but certainly if it had lasted any longer, it would have been. But definitely potash, we did see some impact there.
Young Indigenous writers from across the province gathered in Thunder Bay recently to receive the James Bartleman Indigenous Youth Creative Writing Award. It's the first time in 3 years that the ceremony was held in person and the first time it's ever been held outside Queen's Park. Lee Noonan was there.
Hailing from Ottawa to Attawapiskat, winners of the 2020, 2021, and 2022 James Bartleman Awards were recognized for their creative writing talents in a ceremony at Fort William Historical Park.
What struck me was the wide range of your work. For some it was verse and some prose. For some it was about the everyday, realistic, and others about the fantastic, what could be.
Ontario's Lieutenant Governor Elizabeth Dowdeswell presented the young Indigenous writers with their awards. The winners are chosen by an independent committee and receive a citation and $2,500 in prize money.
It should give everybody in this room a sense of what real potential there is, what hope there is for each of them as individuals, but also for those of us who can learn from Indigenous teachings.
Kentley Gardner of Thunder Bay and Eagle Lake First Nation is the 2021 winner in the Junior Off-Reserve category for her poem, Take Me Home.
My poem was about my reserve and going home, but what gave me a hard time was at the end I had written about my grandfather, which has just recently passed, so I got a little choked up.
Gardner says the win has helped encourage her to keep writing, saying she felt excited and a little bit nervous as she accepted the award and recited her winning poem.
Take me home to Cuckoo's hugs. Take me home to Papa's love. Take me home where I need to be. Take me home where I can be free.
Fort William First Nation Chief Michelle Solomon says the ceremony brought her back to her own years as a student.
There was really nothing in the schools at that time to inspire Indigenous pride. There was nothing in the school system that reflected back to you anything about who you are. So, today honoring 12 young Indigenous people for creative writing is, I just think that gives me hope for the future.
2023 winners are expected to be announced in the fall, and submissions are already open for 2024. The contest is open to all Indigenous students in Ontario, 18 and under, with categories for junior and senior, on-reserve, off-reserve, and fly-in communities. Lee Noonan, TBT News.
The winner of the Hill City Kinsman Sportsman Dream Draw collected his big prize this week from Inner City Power Sports. Tim Fumerton of Thunder Bay is taking home a brand new fishing boat and a Yamaha side-by-side to pull it. The prize package is valued at $33,000, and the Kinsmen managed to raise $55,000, with all the proceeds being distributed to 4 local charities, which are Our Kids Count, the George Jeffrey Children's Foundation, the Wilderness Discovery Camp, and Thunder Bay's Cadet Corps. When Fumerton picked up his prize, he said he couldn't wait to get it out to his camp to give it a test drive.
It's amazing. I've always wanted something like this, and I was actually in the market trying to look around for one, and it worked out just perfect. Well, I'm going to get it out to camp where I'm going to be at the camp, and then we'll probably just take it for a little ride just to check it out.
So we've already started looking at plans on putting a draw together and getting applications organized, and we're looking forward to putting a beautiful package together like we did this year. And we want to thank everybody for helping us and buying tickets. That's what we need to move forward, and let's see what happens next year.
The Hill City Kinsmen sold out all 5,000 tickets in this year's Dream Draw, and Processor says they're hoping to do it again next year.